Hello and welcome to another Talk to Stu with me, Stu Magoo. If you can see me on the screen, just send me a thumbs up in the chat to let me know if you can hear me okay. According to my thing, it should be coming through. Hopefully you can. So anyway, we're doing things a little bit differently this week. First of all, the main issue was normally I do this on a Tuesday night, and unfortunately this week I had a bit of a fibro flare-up. Thank you for the thumbs up there, Mark. So hopefully the audio's coming through all right. So yes, apologies if you were going to join me on Tuesday, and it happens occasionally, so I've moved it to Thursday this week. So hopefully some of you will have joined me from there. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for joining. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some of your questions this evening, and maybe even give you some news and things that's going on. That's the idea of how we do it here. Now normally I'm doing this with my partner Becky, and she's doing the moderating and reading out the questions to me. Unfortunately, she's not so well tonight, so she's having a rest and catching up on Strictly by the sound of it. But she does send her love to all of the regular listeners who know her, and she'll be back with me on the next one. So yes, in the chat, we're being moderated this evening by my brother, who in here is the Duke of Nuke. So he will be hopefully picking up on your questions that are coming through, just in case I miss them. I'm using a different system now, so I get the questions coming up on the screen in front of me. So hopefully I'll be able to pick up on those things. That's the questions. That's the idea of the stream thing, but also it's a bit distracting as well. So yes, a couple of get well soons there for Becky, so thank you for that. So right, we are going to start off with a bit of news first of all. So there's been a few things coming up and going on in the world of the DWP over the last few weeks, but no major changes to things. However, there has been a lot of news stories about benefits being run in the press, and generally speaking they're following things that have been said in Parliament, which aren't really new developments. They're just things continuing as they were. But obviously we are getting towards an election. A lot of people out there are very negative towards people claiming benefits, so they like to hear that the Conservative government is being tough on fraud. So that keeps coming out in the press and the news at the minute, and obviously that's causing a lot of worry for people. So just to address a couple of the things that have been going around in the news there. Also, before I get into that, just a quick update. So the £300 payment for people on Universal Credit, which should have been entering everyone's bank account over the last 4 weeks or so, that 99% of those payments have been made according to figures. So if you haven't received a payment and you think you should have been getting it, then do give them a ring. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get it, because it is still running for a further 2 weeks, up till the end of next week, I think it is, November the 17th. So if you're not sure whether you should be getting one, do give them a call and they will tell you whether you are eligible or whether you aren't. It's all about the qualifying period, which was earlier in the year. So as long as you were receiving Universal Credit during that qualifying period and you didn't have what they call a nil award, you will be getting that coming through to you. But if you're not sure, give them a call and check. Do bear in mind you might be on hold for up to 45 minutes before you get to speak to somebody, because there are a lot of calls about that at the moment. So going back to the big concern, which is bank accounts. So the DWP this time last year announced in the budget that they were going to start cracking down on fraud. And at that time, they released a white paper that was basically, saying exactly how they were going to be doing that and how much money they were going to be putting into it and all those kind of things. There's a lot of different angles to the whole fraud thing, but it is, generally speaking, something that the Conservative Party like to focus on around election time, because it is a vote winner with certain groups of people within the British population. The reality of benefit fraud is that there is an increase in benefit fraud, and that is not from people actually who are genuinely claiming benefit fraud. And you might say, well, obviously it's not. But what I mean by that is by moving over to Universal Credit onto an online system, it does make it easier for criminal gangs and enterprises to use essentially identity theft to claim Universal Credit as if they're someone when they're not somebody. And that can lead to the real person being prosecuted with fraud or brought up for fraud, when actually they're not the people who are causing the problem. And on the previous system, you weren't really able to do that, because you had to fill in a form, you had to go and meet the person, they had to see you sign it, you had to hand over your bank details and your bank statements and things like that. So there was a lot less opportunity for fraud in that sense, whereas now that it's all done online and the application's done online, there's no face-to-face conversation that occurs. People can essentially steal data and falsify data a lot more easily and then use that to set up false claims. So there's a lot of that going on, and obviously that is something that we want to stop. But alongside this, they also like to focus on other people. Now, in real terms, benefit fraud, even through Universal Credit, which is where benefit fraud tends to be the highest, is still making up only 1% or less of all benefit expenditure. So it is a very, very small amount of people, and it works out at being around 1% of claimants, okay? So the fraud figures aren't as high as is made out in the press anyway. In fact, more money is lost to DWP errors than is lost to fraud. And that's always been the case. But even so, it is still a vote winner. So what the DWP under Mel Stride have announced recently, even though they announced it last year, is that they're increasing the powers that they have to access people's bank accounts. So there's a lot of fear around this, so we need to sort of put things into perspective a bit. First of all, the DWP have pretty much always had powers to be able to access your bank accounts if needs be, much the same as HMRC have. That's always been the case. And indeed, that is something that they do if they think there's really good cause to do it. But previously, there wasn't really that many staff to be able to do that with every single person. And indeed, it would be impossible to do that. So it's only if something comes up with a discrepancy where they think, okay, we'll have a look into that. That's traditionally been how it works. What they've done now is they've created a department which is there to go and look into those things. But even with all the money that they're putting into it, which is quite a few million, in real terms, in terms of spending, that really is only costed out for a couple of years. So the department's probably going to be employing somewhere between 50 and 150 people, and they will be working through things as and when something comes up. Now, people are accused of fraud, whether they're fraudulent or not, they're accused of fraud quite often. It's quite common for a neighbour to say, oh, he's conning the system, or she's conning the system, or something like that, when they don't really know your circumstances or situation. That happens quite often. It doesn't happen to everybody. Again, the incidences of this are really in the low, under 10% numbers for most people. Most people don't experience this at all. But those things kind of crop up and people will have a look then. What they're doing with this new system is they will just be picking bank accounts at random, having a look through, seeing if there's any discrepancies, where they can see income coming in that hasn't been notified to the DWP in any way. Also, it's allowing them to try and spot if people are or if criminal gangs and enterprises are doing these things. So in real terms, they're not going to be going through every single person's bank account. They don't have the time and they don't have the resources. The funding that's been put to it does seem quite sizable, but if, like me, you've worked in management and you've managed budgets and things like that at the moment, in my job I'm managing a team of about 3-4 part-time people, 1 full-timer, 3 part-time, and yeah, we're looking at about £60,000 for a year just to employ those 3 people, including their wage costs and the overheads and stuff like that. So when you start looking at all of the IT systems, the office hire, the electricity, the the actual overheads and all those kind of things, actually that money doesn't really go that far. So their resources to do this will be quite restricted. That doesn't mean you shouldn't worry about it at all, because there is a possibility that it could happen. But as long as you are informing the DWP of any extra income that comes in, then there shouldn't be an issue. You have to remember that the amount that you receive is reduced for every £1 over the allowable amount that you earn by 55 pence. Okay, so it's really important every month that if you get any income coming in that is unexpected or from any kind of employment, things like that, that's going into your bank account, then you must inform the DWP about it, and they will reduce your universal credit claim by a certain amount. This also applies if you're in a partnership or marriage. So if you are with somebody and that person is also earning, then you need to inform them about the earnings that they're bringing in too. Okay. So if you do that, inform them of any income that you've got coming in, inform them if you go out of the country for a while, inform them if you stay in hospital for a while, inform them if you do a day's work, even if it's just a one-off thing, all of that, then generally speaking, you should be fine. even if they do a spot check, they're not going to pick up on those things. Also, there are going to be amounts of money that are allowable amounts of money as well. So if you're concerned, if you have got some money coming in and you're not sure whether it falls into the category of an allowable amount, then try and book yourself an appointment with a Citizens Advice Bureau. Maybe even a telephone appointment would be good for that one, and find out whether the amount that you've got coming in qualifies as an allowable amount. So that, I think, is about the size of it for now. So we are going to go over to have a look at some questions. Okay, let's have a look. So we've got a question from M. Dow. And it says, I'm considering leaving my job due to ill health. I have my own house and money in the bank. What will I be entitled to? Well, it depends how much money's in the bank. I think that's the first thing to say. And also it depends on what it is that you are sort of needing. I know that sounds like it's a bit of an odd question, but there's a lot of different elements to that. So if you're leaving a job due to ill health, then what's the nature of your job? And if you're leaving due to ill health, are you just thinking about resigning? I wouldn't necessarily suggest that you do that. It might be important to talk to your employer. Maybe there's a possibility of you retiring early due to ill health. Depends on your employer, depends on how long you've worked there, depends on the terms and conditions of your contract. Are you a member of a union or not? Those kind of things. Being retired early for ill health does mean that you can't work in any other job, but then you might be able to access your pension if that's the case, if you have a pension from your employer. So that might have an impact. Also, might come into account as to what age you are. That might have a bearing on it as well. Are you close to pension age or are you quite young? Those kind of things. Then it's how long have you worked in that particular job, and have you built up your contributions? If you've built up your contributions, you might be entitled to what they call new style ESA, which is a contributory based ESA, which you would go on for 6 months or so, and then you would move on to universal credit after that. Those kind of things. So that's an element. Also, owning your own house, traditionally that means you're not entitled to any form of housing benefit if you own your own house. Do you have a mortgage with that, or do you own it outright? Those are questions. Also, the money in the bank, how much money is in the bank, if it's over a certain amount, and that depends on the benefit that you're applying for as to what that certain amount might be. If you're on a certain amount, then the benefit that you might be entitled is reduced or stopped altogether, meaning that you can't claim for it and that you're not entitled to it. So it might well be that you've got a significant amount in savings, and then what the DWP would expect from you is that you pay yourself what is known as a notional income from your savings. So that's calculated basically for every £1,000 that you have over the allowable amount, you are to pay yourself £10 a week from that, or £100 a week, something like that. So when that allowable amount has been used up, so if you're say you've got £100,000 in the bank, you would pay yourself £100 a week income. Okay. And over the month, that would be £400 a week, £400 a month sort of thing. So you would pay yourself a notional income out of your savings until your savings got down to the allowable amount, and then you would be able to apply for universal credit, which I think is around £6,000. So, are they actually thinking that everyone has less than £6,000 after paying us every £1,000? Yes. So if you have been paid cost of living payments and you just bank that and put it in the bank, and that might take your savings up, then that will take you outside the allowable amount, so you do need to inform them of that. But if you are getting those cost of living payments and you spend it on living, then your amount will stay under 6,000, and then you'll be able to carry on. So, next question we've got is from Caroline. She lives in Scotland. Okay, Scotland's very different to the UK in terms of benefits, and there are some things about Scotland that I'm not too clear on, but let's see what we've got here. I live in Scotland, sent off a renewal that was PIP 14 weeks ago. Any idea how long it will take? Second question, I was due to reapply for ESA, but was carried forward until next September. Okay, so that's good. PIP is a case of every PIP claim, and Scotland have their own version of PIP now, which works in pretty much the same way. It's not that different when it comes down to it. It, generally speaking, has a timescale of 3 months. So from when you send in your first application to when you get your decision should happen within a 3-month period. Okay? That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it runs over to about 6 months. What we're finding at the moment, certainly in England, is that there are a significant amount of delays with people who are doing PIP renewals. So we're seeing that people that have applied for a renewal with PIP are waiting up to 18 months before they get a decision after sending in their renewal form. But for people that are applying for the first time, generally that's happening within a 6-month period. Any award that's made is backdated to the first day of your application. So if you've had to wait 6 months for it to come in and you get awarded PIP at whatever rate, then the payment that you get will be backdated to the original date of application. Being asked to reapply for ESA, but then it's carried forward till next September, is a good thing, really, because that just means, if you want, for a better phrase, a stay of execution, which means that you'll carry on at the same rate without having to go through those things, and also you're not going to be put in the position of having to pay anything back. So having it carried forward can be quite a good thing. The only time that it's not a good thing, which is quite rare to be fair, is if you actually need to move into a higher rate. So if you're in under ESA, it's known as the limited capability for work related activity. If you're in that group and you not limited capability for work-related activity, it's the work-related activity group. If you're in the RAG, the work-related activity group, it might be that you're trying to move into the support group, and obviously having a delay of about a year before that gets assessed might not be a good thing. But yes, limited capability for work-related activity is under universal credit, but never mind. So yes, so that's not a bad thing. So hopefully Caroline has heard my response to that. If you just a bit of advice to everybody in the chat, try not to use capital letters too much in the chat. I'm using this automatic moderator thing, and if you use a lot of capital letters, it'll kick you out and put you in timeout for a few seconds. So don't use all caps. So who's next? And I've just seen Caroline says that she retires in 2025. Okay, well that might be quite good. If you're reaching state pension age when you get to 66, then assuming your contributions are okay, then your pension should be fairly good, and then you will be able to move on to pension credit as well, which would be good. Okay, Mr. Grimsdale. Does someone who is migrating from ESA to UC need to get sick notes? That entirely depends on what stage you're at. The sick notes, or they're called fit notes these days for some reason, need to be submitted until it's been assessed in such a way where they've decided that you don't need to send in sick notes anymore. That's the same under ESA as under universal credit. So if you're at the point where you're still having to give in the fit notes or sick notes every so often when you're on ESA, and then you get migrated over to universal credit, then that will continue. When you migrate over, as I've said a few times before, you get what they call transitional protection. So whatever rate you're on and whatever the assessment has been, that will carry over with you to universal credit. So you'll stay on the same rate and you'll stay in the same group if you've been assigned to a group. If you haven't been assigned to a group, that's unlikely. You'll probably, if you're applying for the first time, unless it's new style ESA, which is contribution based, they'll put you to universal credit straight away, normally. So, Steve Austin, hope that answers your question, Mr. Grimsdale. Is the job centres worth going to discuss my options of going back to work? I'm on full income related ESA 434 every 2 weeks and PIP 690 a month. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. If you want to get back into work, for all the kind of negativity that there is about the Conservative government and the way they treat people on benefits, they have actually put in quite a few schemes that are really helpful to getting disabled people back into work. One of them is the Access to Work scheme, and that can be something that's really helpful. And knowing about the scheme and talking about that with your job coach or work coach at the job centre could be really beneficial, because they might or should have an idea of the things you might be able to do. So if there are any barriers to you getting into work, so for example, if you've got sight loss and you can't drive and you can't get a bus without having support, it might be that Access to Work would pay for a taxi to get you into work. For example, I worked for a sight loss charity previously, and they had sight loss advisors there who themselves had visual impairments, and so they would go out to visit people and they would get a taxi which would take them to that place so that they could visit those clients in their own home, which was really good. Equally, it might be that you've got a physical issue and you get Access to Work in that it gives you a chair to use at work, or a desk that goes up and down, one of those things, standing desk I think they call them. So there's all of those kind of elements to it as well. But quite often in the Access to Work assessment, they think of things that you didn't think of. With Access to Work, it's quite a good system, because if you work for quite a small company, then DWP will pick up the cost of any equipment that you need. But if you work for a big company like Vodafone, who, let's face it, earn quite a lot of money doing what they do, then the government will expect them to pick up the cost of it. So it's quite good, and it also starts the conversation with your new employer as well about what your access needs are and flexibility in the workplace. And at the moment there is a really good consultation going on with the government over flexibility in work. A lot of people work from home. I work from home now, which is great. I do have to go into the office a couple of times a month here and there and go to meetings around the place and things like that, but generally speaking, due to Teams and Zoom and all that things, I can work from home. So have a chat with your job coach, definitely, if you want to get back into work, because they can start looking at things to build you in. You might get placed with an organisation like Reed, who will do some kind of training sessions and back to work sessions and things like that with you. They might help you with your CV and also target employers that have schemes available for getting people with disabilities back into work. So that's a really good question. And that's what I'm here to do. It's not just about, a lot of people think this sort of channel's about claiming benefits sort of thing, and it's not. It's about supporting disabled people and people with health problems to do whatever they want to do. So obviously I want people to be as independent as possible. Okay, so where are we? Sorry, Baileys and Ice. I was awarded LCWRA about 2 months ago. I still haven't been told how long it's been awarded for. How do people ordinarily get told? I can't see it on my journal, nor is it in the assessor's report. Well, normally you should have received a letter with telling you that if you've been put in the limited capability for work-related activity group, then that may well be that it's indefinite, but I wouldn't assume that. So normally there's a letter that comes through. So it's printed in the normal style and you get sent it as a PDF and you'll be able to open it and just see it. Or you might have been sent it in the post. What tends to happen, obviously you said this was about 2 months ago, but what tends to happen is something will be decided on and a letter printed and sent out, and then it takes at least 2 or 3 weeks before it even gets sent out. But also there's quite a few issues with the post office as well at the moment. So if they are sending you a letter by post, it might be that there's a significant delay with that. But ordinarily, if that's been produced and awarded, you also get sent it to your Universal Credit journal and get a PDF document to download. So my advice there is get on the phone and give them a ring and find out what's happened there. Dorco just received an unexpected hospital appointment a few weeks after applying for a disability health assessment. Are they checking up on me? I think that's unlikely. The NHS and hospitals generally aren't linked with the DWP, and actually they tend to have a sort of bit of a negative relationship, because actually doctors find it very frustrating and health professionals find it very frustrating that they, say a person has a disability or a health problem or that they're not fit to work, and then the DWP turn around and say, yes, they are fit to work. And doctors are sort of forced into writing a lot more reports and letters and things like that to fight for their patients rather than against them. So I think it's unlikely, if it's a hospital appointment, that they are connected to that. I've not heard of that happening before. Uncle John carving hearts. Any thoughts on universal basic income? Already trialled in Wales, I think. That's a very complex question. It's also a bit political. If one comes out, then, would it work? Wouldn't it work? I don't know, to be honest. It's there's a lot of different views on that. Some people see it as a good thing. Maybe it is. Everybody being paid, for those who don't know, a universal income is where, as individuals, we're all paid a basic income to live, whatever happens, and then anything we work gets paid on top of that. There's been trials all over Europe for universal basic income, also in a couple of states of America. The evidence on it is fairly weak at the moment. If that existed, then it could, like all of these systems, it depends who's running it as to whether it works for our benefit or for their benefit. That's all I can say. So it depends who's running the show at the time. Ian Dawkins, I've just been assessed as limited capability for work-related activity and get the 390 extra payment. Am I still eligible for the cost of living payments? It would depend. If that's under Universal Credit, which I think it is, as you said, limited capability for work-related activity, it would depend on whether you were receiving Universal Credit during the qualifying period. If you didn't catch it at the start of the show, I did suggest, if you haven't received the cost of living payment at the moment, give them a call and they will tell you whether you were eligible, whether you were receiving Universal Credit in the qualifying period, which was at the end of February this year. If you weren't receiving it at all at that time, or you had a nil award, then you might not be eligible. But whether you are receiving Universal Credit, the normal style, or the what's the word, or the ESA element of it, which is called out of work sickness benefit or something like that, sickness element. If you're receiving that and you're under universal credit and you were there at the time, you should get that payment. Do you still get PIP when you get your pension? Yes. So if you are receiving PIP and you qualify for PIP and then you move to pension age, you will still continue to get PIP. If you've passed pension age and you've never claimed for a disability benefit before, and then you need to for some reason, then you would apply for attendance allowance. If you have PIP and you try to apply for attendance allowance, you won't get attendance allowance because you're already getting PIP. However, the caveat with this is if you have any increase in your sorry, my mouth isn't working. If you have an increase in your mobility needs after pensionable age, you can't get an increase in the mobility payment on PIP, because after pension age, no one gets mobility payments at all. Okay, so if you look at an attendance allowance form, there aren't any mobility questions in the same way that there are on PIP or that there were previously on disability living allowance. Okay, so why older people don't get that, I don't know. My personal feeling is pretty much guaranteed if you're over 66 at some point, if you live long enough, you will develop mobility problems, cause just natural, the bones crumble, the joints go mushy and everything goes a bit wrong. So yeah, at some point you will have a mobility problem if you live long enough. And, if they paid out mobility payments for everybody who was over the age of 66 at some point, that would probably break the bank. Break the Bank of England. I mean, arguably they might be able to print more money, but that's a different argument about economics and stuff. And again, that's just my opinion. There's never been a reason given as to why people over 66 can't get an increase in their mobility. But yes, if you are on PIP before you reach the age of 66, then that continues until ad infinitum, or depending on the PIP renewals and all that business, but yeah, you stay on PIP. I've lost me thing. Get through. Do you get PIP? What is the difference between limited capability for work and limited capability for work-related activity on UC, and how do I know if I get it? Kigoku, hi. So yes, haven't seen you on the chat in a while. Nice to see you again. So limited capability for work and limited capability for work-related activity. I think it's so are we talking between the difference between limited capability for work and ESA and limited capability for work-related activity under universal credit, or are we talking about limited capability for work-related activity and work-related activity under universal credit? That's the question there that I'll throw back at you, because it is very complicated. If we're talking about under universal credit, then the difference is with one, you're being managed back to a position where you might be able to work again, and with the other, it's been decided that you probably won't be able to work again. That's the basic difference. You should have been told which group that you were placed into, and if you haven't been, you can phone them up on the helpline and request that information. When is the government going to make up their mind about ESA base to change over to universal credit? Is it still 2028, 29? Yeah, that's when they are planning to move everybody over. It does get a bit confusing. It does get a bit confusing, because for a while it threw me. They were talking about migrating people over by 2024, but that's just people from job seekers allowance to universal credit. If you're on ESA that migration is happening between now and 2029. So the last people will be asked to migrate over will be in the latter part of 2028, so that's all done by the time it gets to 2029. So and you could get that letter or email arrive at any time to say, or text message to say that they want you to start doing that. If you get that, and I have to be clear about this, and it says to you, you have 28 days to apply, you must apply within that time. So with applying for PIP for the first time and applying for universal credit for the first time, going into the ESA group where you get sent the UC50 form to fill it out and things like that, you can ask for extensions with those forms, things like that. But with this, you can't ask for an extension. You must begin the process of moving over onto universal credit as soon as you get that notification. It's what they call managed migration. Okay, so there's what they call natural migration, which is where something occurs in your life and you're sort of forced into having to claim for universal credit because of a change of circumstances. Maybe, you know, your partner moves out or moves in or something like that. Those kind of change of circumstances, you would have to look at that, doing that. That would be a natural migration. But a managed migration is when they get in touch with you and they say, you must do this within 28 days, you must do it within 28 days. Otherwise, your claim could be cancelled completely, you would lose the transitional protection, and you'd have to start the entire process again, which would be no good at all. Do the HMRC look at your savings account as in having two bank accounts? If you're self-employed and you're with the HMRC doing the self-assessment, it's unlikely that they would look at your bank account unless there's a reason for them to. But if you were sending in your self-assessment and there were a lot of discrepancies with it, or they thought you were, not being upfront about things, then they might use their powers to look into that bank account. That's if you're just working as a sole trader. If you've got a business or something like that, then again they would be looking at your books and things and seeing if they made sense or not. If there are any big discrepancies or dodgy things going on, then the fraud team would have the power to look into your bank account if they needed to. But generally speaking, if you are telling them about your bank accounts and things that you need to in the right way, and you're declaring your earnings in the right way and paying your tax in the right way, then there shouldn't be any problem. Caroline, wonder since my ESA has been carried on another year to 2024, have received it for every 2 years, but wonder if DWP will carry it forward for my last year as due state pension in 2025. They may well be doing that. They are doing that with a lot of people at the moment, where they and you kind of have to, when you're working in this sort of thing, you have to kind of triage people, essentially looking at their files and thinking, well, is it worth us putting ourselves through the work? So they're probably not thinking about it like, oh, we don't want to put Caroline through all the stress of having to reapply. They might just be looking at it of like, well, actually, do we need the extra paperwork because we've got this huge backlog at the moment? So that might be possible. Unfortunately, it's hard to know because we don't know what goes on behind those closed doors unless a whistleblower comes forward, because the DWP generally get people to sign non-disclosure agreements when they work there. Kigoku 2000, are the rates different for LCW and LCWRA on UC? Yes, they are different. I can have a look. Hello, Stu, Becky, and all. Can you give me any advice regarding applying for the enhanced rate of mobility? Ooh, okay, that's a good question. So if you're looking for the enhanced rate of mobility, that probably suggests to me, John, that you're on the standard rate. So the enhanced rate, so generally speaking, if you have a very significant mobility issue, then it might be that you score 12 points on question 14. If you score 12 points on question 14, then you'll get the enhanced rate. But you have to have a very severe mobility issue, which means that you can't walk for less up to 50 meters. You basically can't walk, or you might have a visual impairment as well. That might be an element that would get you to that 12 points bracket. The other way of doing it is if you have a low, not low, but if you have a mobility issue where you can sort of walk between 20 and 50 meters, no, not 20 and 50, 50 and 100, things like that. So you're in that kind of bracket. So you're scoring sort of 4 or 5 points there, but actually you really need support when you go out and about from somebody else. So in the going out section, which is question 13, if you score quite high on that section, so you need somebody to support you when you go into new places, you suffer with panic attacks, sometimes you can't go out because of extreme stress or because of your health condition, those kind of things, then you would get the points on question 13 to be quite high, so that they added up to 12 points. But you've got to get 12 points if you want to get the enhanced rate of mobility. So unless you've got a very, very severe mobility problem, it would need to be in combination with number 13 for you to achieve the enhanced rate. If you can't say that either of those things are the case, then you will probably just stay on the standard rate. So thanks for that question, John. June Gower, gosh, the questions are coming in thick and fast tonight. I almost can't keep up. I am missing Becky, I tell you that. It does help it out. Also, with all the other lovely comments, I haven't got time to read them all, sadly, for me to go through and answer all of those questions. As much as I would love to, or pick up all your other chat and comments and that, I just don't have time to read everything. So as I say, these comments are the questions are being filtered over to me by my brother who's in the chat as well. So where were we, John? Okay, I will come back to Kid Goku's question. There are different rates on LCW and LCWRA. Let me just quickly Google them. So the single person with the LCWRA element is £132.12 per month. No, that's not right. Hang on. So don't worry, it hasn't gone quiet. I'm just reading. Nothing's wrong with your video. I haven't frozen. Yes. So the LCW is an extra £146.31 per month for a single person. The limited capability for work-related activity element is an extra £390.06 per month at the moment. So those are the current rates. If you do want to know the rates and what exactly you would qualify for based on your circumstances, and you want to do a benefit check, I always advise that you go to turn2us.org.uk. I'll just pop that into the chat if I'm able to. Let's see if I can. There we go. So if you go to that website, they've got a benefits calculator on there. There's also a charitable grants system on there. You can also use an advice finder as well. Pop your postcode in there and it'll tell you any one-to-one support that is nearby that you will be able to access. Let's have a look at June's question. Sorry, June. My husband is exempt from council tax. Do I have to pay as I'm caring for him and on universal credit? So yes, when you've got two people in the household and one person is exempt from council tax, then you're treated as a single person in that household, so you should get the 75% discount. It doesn't mean that you're exempt from council tax unless both of you are on such a low income that actually your income isn't high enough, so you qualify for the council tax support element of universal credit, and so your council tax comes down to zero anyway. Okay, so that's how that works. So if you are earning enough money to not qualify for council tax support and your partner is exempt from council tax, then you're treated as a single person and you get a single person discount, which is 25%. So you pay 75% of your council tax bill. If, however, your income is low, if you're on carer's allowance, or your universal credit thing is together, then you will get the council tax support element added to your universal credit claim. As I just said, go to the Turn to Us benefits calculator. You can check all the figures in there and put in all the information, or as I always say, get one-to-one support and advice if you can. So thank you for that question, June. Very good question. Can you get limited capability for work-related activity and PIP at the same time with universal credit? Yes, in theory you can. Chichikov. Hi Stu, I'm doing an ESA 50 mental. Yes, it is. Is it okay to repeat paragraphs word for word from a previous application where circumstances are the same? Yes, I would do exactly that. I would do exactly that when filling it in. Eliza Khan, how long does LCWR8 last on universal credit? That entirely depends on your circumstances and what the results of your assessment were. It may well be indefinite. It often is. You have to essentially get in touch with them and check to see what what's been decided. Sorry, I'm starting to get tired and my brain's failing on me. So yeah, you need to give them a call on the advice line. Bear in mind, like I say, the support line, it could be for 45 minutes just to check what the length of time is that you've been put into the limited capability for work-related activity group. Hopefully it should be indefinite, but it isn't always for all people, and it depends on your condition. You may not want it to be indefinite anyway. You might actually want to get better and get back to work and things like that, so you might actually want to have an assessment in the future to get you back there. Okay, Caroline, is there a way I can send you a wee thank you gift? Well, that's very kind, via PayPal for helping us. Your advice is so helpful. Yes, I thought I'd set that up in some way with this new Streamlabs thing, but it doesn't seem to have done that properly. But there is something called Super Thanks as well, which I set up on YouTube. But just watching my videos as well is helpful because I get the revenue from the adverts in that. When the adverts come on, just don't skip. Just don't skip next time. Just think, okay, I'm not really interested in buying a new Peugeot electric car right now, but I'll watch the advert. Stu gets an extra 50p. Yeah, I'll work that out for next time, so I can get those PayPal details up and you can just click a thing. But there is something called Super Thanks. You might be able to see that in the chat. If you click on that, some people can send me £1 or £2. But please, if you are on a low income, don't send me any money at all. I do get paid from advertising and I do have a job as well. I'm not doing the Q&A necessarily to earn money out of that. So it's very nice. You can buy no more than buying me a coffee is what I would say for that. But thank you for Yeah, there's no ads on this bit, but there are ads on my other videos. So, you know, if you do want to say thank you in some way, go watch one of my other videos and just let it run through. You don't even have to actually watch it. Just put it on and go and have a cup of tea and watch Strictly or whatever. You know, just let it run in the background. It helps my algorithms. It helps it go up there, you know. So, yeah, there we go. But, yeah, I don't do the ads on here when we're doing the questions because that would just be annoying. Hit the like button, peeps. Yeah, do it. Hit the like button, like and subscribe. I'm running out of steam now, and I think we're coming towards the end of the hour anyway. I usually do this for about an hour. Oh, there's a comment. You're doing well, Stu. Keep going, from Samantha. Thank you, Samantha. That's brilliant. Streamlabs keeps coming up and saying don't use symbols. I've seen. Watch out with using symbols and using capital letters in this new software. It doesn't like that. It thinks you're up to no good somehow. It's tricky. Yes. Have we got? I was awarded at tribunal. Let's see. Okay. So yes, Sylvestment, that's an interesting comment there about how they were awarded at tribunal high mobility and low care element, and the tribunal ended early as he or she broke down and they didn't finish the care questions. I'm happy with my PIP, however, my carer thinks it should be high care, the high element of care. Well, that might be something that you can work on with your award. It will be that it will need to be reviewed in a certain amount of time. It might be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, or an indefinite award. If it's an indefinite award, you can ask for a reassessment at any time, but it does mean going through that process all over again. The tricky part about that is you have to see that your condition has worsened and that you've developed new things. If you are being assessed on what's already there, again, and it just wasn't the right rate, then that's strictly speaking not allowed. So if you feel that you should be on the higher rate than you are, you can appeal the decision of the appeal, but that means taking it up to a second tier tribunal, and then you have to prove that there was an error in law, and there is a cost involved in that, so that can be really difficult to do. So what I would say is just wait till it comes up to your review. It may well be that your condition has progressed and some things have got worse then, and then when you're going through that process, you can go to mandatory reconsideration and appeal then, again, if needs be. Hopefully you wouldn't have to, and you might be able to do that. But again, as I always say, please get support. Use the Turn to Us link. It's up there in the chat. Use the advice finder thing. See if you can get one-to-one support in your local area. My advice tends to be quite general. Sorry, I just bashed the mic. Quite general and not very specific. It's always good to have somebody look over your circumstances specifically. I wish I could do that for everybody, but unfortunately there's just not enough hours in the day. But yes, so so we're just coming up to the end now. We've got 4 minutes left. So yeah, thank you to absolutely everybody for tuning in, and all the lovely comments as well. It's lovely to see people coming back and having a chat and supporting each other as well. That's what this is about. We want this chat to be a supportive place for people, because we're all in the same sort of boat. We're all struggling with different things. We've all got pains and aches and things going on up here and things going on down there and things going on out there, and it's all just shit, generally speaking. So seeing people support each other, seeing people come back to the channel all the time, the regulars like Samantha, Mark, Steve, Rob McCallan, the Ed and Edward as well. They often come back. New people to the channel as well. That's great. Seeing Kid Goku back again is good. Hooked on Classics, glad to see you've popped up as well. Everybody, you're always very welcome, and great to see you all here and supporting each other. And oh, how did that happen? Oh, thank you, Mr. Grimsdale. That is very kind, but seriously, yeah. How do you copy chat? I think literally just run your mouse up it and highlight it all, and then Control C and find a document, and Control C and then Control V. Something like that. So yeah. So anyway, I'll be popping along with my frequently asked question videos. They'll be popping up over the next few weeks. I'll keep popping them up there, and when I get a chance, and I'll be back again at the start of next month, the first Tuesday of the month, if possible, and I'll be here to answer your questions again. Obviously, each time I post a video on the night that it goes up, I try and go through and answer as many questions as I can on my recorded videos, if I can, but quite often I do miss some of those questions, just as I say, because things get tiring. But do keep searching, keep supporting each other, keep supporting yourself. If you're feeling like you're going through hell at the minute, just keep going. Just keep going. Even if you don't come out the side, just keep going, because the alternative is worse. All right. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and I'm going to end the stream now, and yeah, see you all again soon. Big love. And oh, big thanks to my brother for stepping in and doing the moderating and being a cool dude as always. Thank you, Duke of Nuke. Anyway, yes, have a nice evening, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.